Chapter 4, Operation Maintenance of a Diesel Electric Locomotive, tm55202 or 203. I'm not exactly sure what's on the menu, but general for fuel system supply. Fuel is pumped in the fuel tank through the strainer filters related to the fixture of the fuel oil manual fiddle header and the discharge under the pressure to the injection equipment to each of the cylinders. The pump is usually driven electrical motor designated to supply the pump, fuel, and transfer pump, booster pumps, and should be always clearly distinguished from the fuel injection pump. The relief valves are provided to protect the fuel pump and the motor against excessive overload to keep the excess oil of the fuel oil header from the keeping access of the excess oil from the fuel oil header from the returning of the back of the tank. A pressure gauge of the cab tells whether the adequate fuel oil pressure is being maintained to supply the lines. The fuel tank is usually suspended beneath the under frame between the trucks and can be filled with either side. The air comes with an opening protected by the frame arrestor. The fuel gauge is provided by the near the fill pipe to show the fuel level. Some locomotives are hard, or some locomotives also have a fuel gauge in the cab, the fuel tank, and the drain plug with the cleaning purposes. Condensation of the drain valve, the drain plugs, and the filter housing and the suction lines should be opened when the engine is stopped. The pumping does not draw air and loses its prime. Essentially, the sludge, water, and the air kept out of the system. 16. Fuel oil requirements. Generally, specific oils are used to obtain the high power at the low rate of the compensation of minimizing corrosion and other causes of excessive maintenance. High heat content expressed in BTUs is majorly required, or major requirement. Standard fuel is usually provided by all locomotives in the given area of the crew, which seldom finds it necessary to make a selection. Cleanliness, viscosity, engine quality, as expressed in the octane ratings, are the most important properties of the diesel fuel. Cleanliness is the diesel fuel must be clean, otherwise fuel pump and the injector difficulties will occur. The fuel acts also as a cooling agent of the pump and the injector parts. Diesel fuel is heavier than more viscosity than gasoline and will hold dirt in suspension for long periods of time. If every precaution will be taken to keep the dirt out of the fuel system, eliminated before it reaches the pump. Water in the diesel fuel will cause even an operation corrode of the fuel system. Any corrosion of the erosion accurately machine in the surface of the injection equipment will cause become the inoperative. Viscosity is the resistance resistance of offered by the fluid to change in shape of the motion. However, the viscosity, the oil is hot. The oil is hot. It will flow more than rapidly when it is cold. Oil shall be within the thin, low viscosity in the cold weather, heavy with the high viscosity in hot weather. The viscosity of the diesel fuel must be sufficiently low to the flow freely at the lowest temperatures encountered. It must be high enough to properly lubricate the fitted pump and the injector plungers, but therefore it must be sufficiently viscosity to prevent leakage at the pump, the plungers, and dripping of the injector. The viscosity determines the size of the fuel spray complete drops in which the turn governed the atomization of the penetration measured with the viscosity indicating the given the volume of the higher of the liquid of the determination higher to the flow through the air orifices. D, an octane rating. The octane ratings are measured for the ignition quality of the fuel oil. The rates established by laboratory testing competing with the combustion pressure, ignition lag of the oil test of the fuel, and variation percentage of the octane per octane percentage is grade 100. Better quality fuels have a high octane rating. Manufacturer's recommendations on octane ratings of the fuel should be followed. Use the fuel as within a high octane rating. Let me flip this. This is the diagram of fuel system starting out at the very top corner on the left-hand corner, top left-hand corner. The injector cylinder head goes in the injector drain line, followed by the box, as well as the pumping housing drive goes to the fuel pump, delivers the pipe to the injector cylinder head. The injector line drive line goes to the box, so does the pump drive housing, while the fuel header goes into the pump drive housing. The box then goes into a parallel circuit with the regulating valve at 35 pounds, the gauge and cab at 35 to 40 pounds. And then from the regulating valve, it goes to the filters to the fuel header in the drain. From the fuel header, it goes in a circle around to back to the relief valve and the regulating valve. And while it also goes from the gauges from the motor pump, the relief valve into the fuel tank, from the fuel tank underframe into the emergency fuel oil cutoff and trip knob, a duplex strainer into a motor transfer pump, and then back into the relief valve. From the fuel tank, you go into an equalizing pump vent, the flame arrests the vent from the fuel tank under cab, and the drain and the clap and the plug and the filling pipe. Alright, usually causes pre-ignition determination of the octane number that's involved with the laboratory procedure. Miscellaneous requirements: fuel oil should be burned completely without leaving the carbon residue. It should not be clogged with the system, causing the corrosion due to the presence of sulfur. The flash point of the pour point should be occurred at a substantial temperature near the fill of the fuel tank near the open flame. 17. Fuel oil purification. In order to deliver the clean and fuel to the engine, a constant effort must be made to prevent the decontamination of the wayside supply station on the locomotive. Each time the fuel oil is moved from one container to another, it should be run through filters and strainers to remove the more filtering, straining the fuel oil receives less than contamination of the dirt and foreign particles. Natural settling and effective method of cleaning the storage tanks have been to drain, cock and tap through the water sediment of the drain and flush to prevent the accumulation of water, keeping the tanks as almost possible, eliminate the condensation and the moisture-laden air and any events of water. The wayside storage facilities requires the prompt inspection correction. Fuel should be delivered through the tank locomotive directly through the permanent pump installation. The use of the cans, funnels, and drums should be avoided. The fuel is delivered to the locomotive tank filters, strainers, and fuel system further than the fuel is as described in paragraph 18. 18. Fuel oil filters. Through the careful filtration of the fuel oil, especially necessary to keep the diesel engine efficient. The diesel engines are more viscosity than gasoline. They contain more gums and more abrasive particles that may cause premature wear of the injection equipment. The abrasive consisting of the material with difficulty elimination during the refining process. Other may enter the fuel tank in the careless refueling. Whatever the source, it is imperative the engine system of the protected from the abrasives. Most diesel engines design included the two more filters in the fuel supply to the system to protect the closely fitted parts from pumping the nozzle. The primary course of the filter usually located between the supply tank and the supply pump. The main line filter is between the fuel supply pump and the injection pump. Additional filter elements are frequently installed with the injection pump, the nozzle, and the nozzle. The duplex oil filter is now in the figure 14. The close of the watch must be made fuel pressure gauge. If the pressure drops occurs, an indication that the filter change is needed. C. The diesel fuel oil filters refer to the fuel flow filters. Because the fuel must pass through the filters before reaching the injection pump, the filters must be inspected regularly and cleaned and replaced. The maximum efficiency is to be maintained. All metal disc filters, some cloth bag type filters and elements are cleaning able. The most cloth and fabric elements must be replaced, but when they become dirty. The diesel oil filters usually incorporate air vent, releasing the air which some might be accumulating in the filter during the operation. The drain plug at the bottom of the moving the sediment. Metal filters are used primarily to filters because of the fine particles that they may pass through them that are not injurious to the supply system that would be injection of the pump. Cleaning knife is often provided to scrape the deposits of the oil off the filtering. The solids fall to the bottom of the filter housing where they can be removed through the drain plug hole, and the ball relief of the filter cover enables the oil to bypass the filter element and the disc become clogged. Fabric filters, because they get rid of the filter qualities, usually is main filter protecting the fuel interjection pump. The large bag type of the filter is desirable because of its clean and filter the max made and eventually woven inlet, lintless, solid resisting textile material. The entire surface of the bag is available for filtering purposes. The fuel is filtered and flows from the filter inlet and the top through a spool on the port inside with the bag of the dirt, solid abrasives, carbons, extra, etc. is caught on the bag, and the cleaning of the fuel outward and the filter outlet of the bag then can be turned into the expelled dirt and may be washed and reinstalled. This shows the fuel oil filters, the case, the metal with the scraper handle. It comes with the fabric elements and the fuel oil supply pump. Number 19, the motor-driven displacement pump that is used to draw fuel oil from the tank of the pump into the fuel oil Header is so that the injection pumps are so supplied at all times. Injection pumps do not have enough suction ability to their own draw oil. Cummins fuel filters are combined the fuel injection pump and the suction pump in the oil unit. Therefore, they do not require a separate suction pump. The fuel oil discharges from the pump to the pressure about 35 to 40 pounds per square inch, or psi. The relief valve on the pressure side of the set about the 75 psi protects the pump inside of the block of the fuel and line overhead of the pump. The fuel delivered into the pump, metered and timed by an injection pump of the system. The unit injections system. The injector contains the injection pump nozzles for one housing. 20. The fuel injection pump. Each cylinder is a multiple unit system having individual injection pumps, meters valve delivered under high pressure. The spray nozzle loading into the combustion chambers. The pump that operated with the cam. The plunge stroke remains constant at all loads. The plunger is turned axially by a fuel cover rack connected to the governor. The angular position of the fuel pump plunger with respect to the barrel ports determines the quality of the fuel injector per stroke. The actual meter is done by the helical groove in the into the plunger with the alternate openings and closing of the port of the barrel. The port of the left and the inlet port of the right is the bypass. The vertical passenger extends to the top of the helical groove in the top face of the plunger in a no fuel position. The plunger is turned to the vertical groove and connects to the space immediately above the plunger into the bypass through an entire stroke of the pump. Exerts the pressure onto the injector at the point of the maximum fuel delivery. A plunger is actually completed almost a full stroke before the helical uncovers the base. My pace. Port release plunger. The plunger forces oil and injector into the moves in any position with no fuel. Maximum fuel delivered. The plunger assumes the corresponding axle position. Helical uncovers the bypass of the intermediate portions of the stroke amount of the fuel forced into the injector nozzle before the pressure is released. This shows a fuel oil supply pump where the cartridge type oil filter through the metal edge of the trainer through a motor driven supply pump into the discharge relief valve. 21. Fuel injector nozzle. The injector nozzle is directed into the fuel and combustion chamber. The definition of the material is designed to contain the mixture of the fuel for the combustion. It contains the nozzle's valve, which is lifted to the nozzle body to the compartmented assembly. These parts must be kept paired at all times and interchangeable. We must be careful to avoid the repair. The work is done. The valve is open when the fuel delivers sufficient pressure to lift the valve against the spring pressure. When it opens, the fuel is delivered to the nozzle orifices of the combustion chamber. The injector shows the figure 18. The unit injection and the nozzle combined, including the helical metering arrangement similar to the one described in the paragraph 20. Performs the same function. Injection pump separately to the nozzle. The simple injector nozzle for the use of separate injection pumps. It is similar, but less involved with the design operation. Some injectors are built-in filters to protect the working parts of the fuel, provided with the adequate lubrication of the moving parts. 22. The emergency fuel cutoff valve. The emergency fuel cutoff valve furnishes the means of the cutting of the fuel. The flow of the fuel for the tank of the diesel in case of emergency. The type of the use of the alcohol locomotives in figure 19. The valve is located in the suction line. This is a picture of the fuel injection pump with the time window mm markings, the control rack pointer, the fuel inlet position, and with a cross-sectional view starting at the top with the injection tube, the tubing union nut, the delivering holding nut, the pump housing, the baffle screw, the seat, the barrel locating pin, upper spreet sing, the plunger spring, the plunger guide cup, the control sleeve, the rack. From across, you see the rack stop screw and the plunger with the rack sleeve, a barrel, baffle screw, delivery valve, gasket, delivery valve body, and delivery valve spring. Near the bolster pump at the contactor, the compartment that closed with the 3 points of the locomotive pulling on the red knob of the engine man position at either side of the locomotive above the center of the rear truck. With the valve is tripped closed, the fuel pressure gauge should indicate 0 pounds per pressure. The resets manually power the valve stem, resulting from the crutch which holds the valve open. These are little injection pump plunger assemblies, the maximum delivery, the normal delivery, and no delivery. Shows the inlet port and the bypass ports with the effective part of the stroke of the short. Shows vertical groove bottom stroke and the helical groove and end drive. End of the delivery, effective of the part of the stroke along a bottom stroke and the end of delivery there. Another injection unit injector. It shows the fuel line with the follower guides, follower springs, and fuel connection with the filter cap, the gasket, filter spring, filter rack control roller, which rolls on the control rack to operate the move the for the fuel injection. The plug locating dial, nut, bushing, spill deflector, check valve seat, check valve stop, spacer, check valve, spray tip, the spring case spring, the cervical check guide, check valve guide pin, gear retainer, seal ring, gear plunger body, stop pin, lock washer set, screw follower, spring follower guide, and follower guide. Here is a picture of emergency fuel cutoff valve. This is you shut the ALCO off. The stem nut, stem springs, disc pin, cap, bellows, hex, a disc, and a body. Shows with the washer, stem nut, tripping valve, and handle. Emergency cutoff for the emergency cutoff valve. Chapter 5: Engine Lubrication Systems.